Hello, my name is Philip Wesley. Philip Andrew Wesley. I am the co-owner of Animation is Art, along with Sarah, Catherine Tomasi. And this is a video I've been wanting to make since July, and I haven't been able to make it because parts of it I also dread putting to video. Um, we had a little bit of a dispute with our landlord in July. But in order to get to where we are there, I have to give you a little bit of history. Okay, Sarah and I moved out over here, leaving. I had two jobs in Missouri. Two jobs. I went from making a little over 30,000 to being completely unemployed for almost 2 years because I moved out here to help my aunt and uncle because family helps each other when they were stationed in Japan. They didn't want to sell their house at the time or relocate my grandmother, who is elderly, or their dog and some of their stuff. So I agreed. Well, Sarah and I agreed to move out over here because, well, I thought I could get a transfer through the union. I mean, that's why I paid them from one branch of the Internal Revenue Service to the other branch out over here, which had pretty much like there's a couple of the offices that are the same. I used to work in wages and income batching at the Internal Revenue Service, and there were similar jobs at my same E-level that I could have moved to. And I put in all the paperwork 4 months before we moved over here, and the union lost them. The union kind of screwed me over on that, and I was unemployed for about 2 years that we were here. Anyways, what we did then, well, Sarah left the job at Stantec to move out over here. We went, we were living here over there at my aunt and uncle's house, taking care of the house for them, um, and we were still looking for jobs. And because, well, there'd be stuff that I had to take care of with my grandmother, so I couldn't just get any particular job because then who would be there if she has to go to like her doctor's appointments and stuff. It's rough. So, anyways, and also when I was handing people my resume, the first thing on there is the Internal Revenue Service, and then sales experience, and then a bunch of management experience. And when you're handing that to people who are younger than you in management positions, most of the time they look at that and it scares them to death and they don't hire you. So, anyways, when we moved out over here, we were we Sarah got hired at a company called Javiation, and they'll come back up again. And that was a really good job. And I was just looking for something like, you know, employment. When you're unemployed for a while, it starts to get to you. I run a website called dmgice.com, and I started doing more with that. I started doing more with like Radio DMG and all these other things, and we got to be it got to cover a anime convention called Non-Descon. Now, the cool thing about Non-Descon is like I didn't realize like I had been covering stuff like Akon and all that before, but I was able to do more with that. Radio DMG came back because of what we were able to do with non-Descon and all that. It kind of, for a while, that gave me something to do because when you're unemployed and you and you're sending out stuff and nothing is happening, you start hearing voices. You start hearing it hurts. So empty ice and anyways, anyways, one thing I noticed that it's like there's this really great community here, and I felt that the only things for them there's like Gimme Anime and then another store that I'm not gonna mention that sells bootlegs and was run by a really creepy and horrible person, and I was just like, well, maybe I can help with this because I started looking into taking classes at the Aurora Business Development Council. Those are free. So I was like, okay, I can go in, take these free classes, learn a little bit about this. And I was looking at it, I was like, I wanted to put together a store, a place that would be safe for all kinds of fans. Um, you'll see like some anime stores are run by people who are frankly like they're fans of anime, but not fans of animation. And then the stores that deal and cater with animation are mostly all either horribly corporate and don't cover a lot of stuff or have horrifyingly gouging prices. A lot of the anime stuff and stuff around the area is like people are used to going and seeing like, oh, there is this art book. I am paying 80, $90 for this art book. When in actuality, when you look at the wholesale, you should be paying 40. You should be paying the market price on it, not the inflated price. And part of the reason we started this was to give something back to that community that I saw at Non-DeskCon, and I was like, this is kind of amazing. These people are really passionate about this, and they're really great and deserve something. They deserve a store. And I did the research on it. I did all the I worked on that stuff, the math for it, because, well, frankly, we were trying to figure out how to budget it. And we went to Chase to see if we could get a $50,000 loan, or even a $30,000 loan would be fine. We ended up getting a $15,000 loan from them, an SBA loan. At least we thought it was an SBA loan. And we were like, okay, well, in about a year we can come back with our sales figures and what we put into this and what we paid. There's all these initial costs that this will mostly cover, and we can go ahead and we will be able to launch the store. We just have to survive a year and we can go back and ask for a little bit more money. And the way it sounded, we were talking with, I think, Lisa over at Chase. It sounded like, yeah, it's an SBA loan. We can go in. Perfect. We built the store as inexpensively as possible and as smartly as possible. We have furniture from IKEA, specialty store services, Sam's Club, um, various other stores like Borders, Blockbuster, Best Buy, Ultimate Electronics, and all these things went out of business while we were working on the store. And we were able to buy up some of these fixtures. The only things we really splurged on were a Venmill machine, because I'd used those over at Hastings and they're really good, and our sign, which costs about $3,000 to put out. Then, of course, there's the initial payments and the other stuff that you have to pay when you're renting that. We went with the rent for here because, well, the rent itself is actually $1,875, and then there's estimated cam or triple net, which is what they cover, the Paragon Properties Management people. That would be Murray and Eileen Tanner. Anyways, what we did was what in I think late April, early May, we looked at this place, and there was a place across the street, but it needed too much work. And then there was this place, and this was perfect. I just kind of fell in love with it because the space, it's just the right amount of space for events. It's just the right amount of space for all the little furniture and stuff we had here. Lots of little. There's a really good backroom area there for like holding content and other books and boxes and other items. And I was like, this will be perfect for that. So I was working on that, and we got this. We bought chairs. We started doing things for it. Like I mean, our we got some interesting stuff. For example, that's Ultimate Electronics, and that right there is from Game On. We started putting stuff up there. We started slowly building together a great store. Um, we are, instead of getting the 30,000 or 50,000 that we originally wanted, we got 15. We got even less than half of the lowest number we needed. So a lot of that had to come out of our own money and credit, and it shot my credit all to hell. Oh well, they don't base credit scores off of what people are going to do with the money or their character. They base them on an arbitrary number dictated by the people who lend. And you see, there's three different things: Experian and all that stuff. But credit scores are basically a way of companies saying that, hey, if you have a lot of money, we'll give you a lot of money. We want you to get richer that way. But if you don't have a lot of money and you need to borrow from us, or you're working on this, we don't care either way, and we're going to bleed as much as we can out of you at that point. Essentially, credit scores are intended to crush the weak. They crush people who don't have a lot of money, or weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth, or with or own dozens at that's intended for people who credit scores are intended to hold down people who don't own 3 houses in Texas or something, or things like that. Anyways, So we started that up. We were still living and taking care of my aunt's house, aunt and uncle's house, and we are still living over there, so we didn't have rent. We found out while we were there that their tour had gotten cut short, and they were going to move back in. And then, like, I guess Uncle Bob was going to buy like an apartment or something in Cleveland, and then they're just going to live here at these houses, like at that house, and they're just moving back in. So Sarah and I had to go find rent. Sorry, some apartment to rent. So we ended up um, having about almost an $800 chunk taken out of what we would normally have been using for the store, starting in August. Let's see. So, like, a little bit after we opened, we were actually doing pretty well in sales, but because we had the increased rent, and then we had the rent from like the store, and that was kind of eating into that to a point where we weren't able to replace as much stock as we'd like. Now, in this type of store, the more stock you have, the more you can sell. And if you don't replace that stock at a hurried pace, you're eventually going to run out. You're eventually going to have empty shelves. You're going to eventually have less to sell, and so you make less. Now, um, we were still working on that. We're just like, okay, we just need to last until June. We go back to the bank with our loan paperwork and we say, hey, can we get a little bit more money? We use that to replenish the stock. We'll be fine. And then in June of 2012, Sarah, who had been working with Javiation for about 2.5 years, was fired. In fact, they fired there's some people who quit. They cut a lot of their admin staff down from like 5 to 1. The company just started people just being fired or reduced hours or just all over the place. It just kind of the, Javiation is a family owned company with a lot of family values, as in they value a lot of family more than they value people with actual experience. In fact, part of Sarah's job that she had went to someone who was married to one of the boss's sons. Yeah, and the other person that they gave it to was a person who didn't have anywhere near the experience and ended up quitting anyways. And it's just like, ugh, that was horrible. That was a really bad setback. And for a little while, Sarah was without a job. And that meant that in June, we had less money to go toward rent and such. And we were having a little bit of trouble paying that. I mean, we're doing sales, we're trying to do some stuff there, like to get stuff to get stuff up and running. And about in June, rather in the first part of July, we still owed some of June's rent. And Eileen and Marie Tanner started threatening us with legal action if we didn't like keep in communication with them or make some type of effort to pay the rent. And we're sending them checks. In fact, they sent for July, they sent us a little thing that said, "Here's the balance forward. We're going to take out." They didn't even deduct what we paid them from it, and they're like, "Okay, here's what we need." And I was like, "Okay." They started calling my cell phone and leaving messages, and then they started calling the phone at the store almost every day. And they're like, "Do you have anything for me?" I was like, "Well, I can write you a check for a couple $100s." That is like the store was we had hit a point where we needed to get more money from the bank, and we were trying to work through with the bank to get more money. And we were in the process of that when Sarah lost her job, and that makes it really difficult because, oh no, one of you works at this store, which you're asking for the money for, and the other is unemployed. Oh yeah, well, no, yeah, that sounds wonderful. Well, let's look at your tax stuff. Okay, you guys actually made almost 40 grand in a year for the store, and then a lot of it went to rent and triple net and taxes and electricity, etc. Okay, that seems okay, except, oh, remember we said this was an SBA loan? It's actually an ABA loan, which means all business assets. So in other words, we gave you 15 grand based on what we feel your store is worth. And I'm like, wait, what? So after we were still fighting with them over this. I had to make sure and verify that stuff, and we hit a thing where I was like, great, what do we do? So I reached out and because like Murray and Eileen were calling. They were calling me. I was like, well, I can get you this much here. Well, I don't know if that's going to be enough. Bad things are going to happen. Every time I talk to you, it's, I'm getting you the money for this. Okay, I can pay this, and here's this. I'm sending this money, and frankly, that's all bunk. It's phooey. Blah, blah, blah. And he'd just be like, bad things are going to happen. We're going to sue you and take all your stuff. I'm like, what? It's just constant harassment from them. And so I put out the message, and we put out these huge sales, and we got, actually everyone worked together, and it was really great, and we raised about $2,100, so $2,100 in sales. Not so much donations, but sales, which is wonderful. Sales are good. Um, Although, you still have to replenish that stuff. But the sales are good, and we raised that, and we added some stuff, and I handed them a check for $2,600, which more than covered what was left on the June rent, and paid part of the July rent, like a good chunk of the July rent. And I handed Murray that check, and he was like, well, August is coming. This doesn't cover August when that's due. So I don't know. I mean, that's nice that you did all that and all. That's whatever. That's eh. That was his reaction. And you have no idea how mad that made me, because I was just like, everybody put so much effort into this, and you're just going to shit all over it like that. And I was just like, really? So we're still working on that, and Sarah actually found a couple temporary jobs, and we're working on that and getting some money to them. And we're at a point right now where we have September's rent and part of August, and we're working on that. I finally talked more to Chase, and eventually they were like, well, because we changed your SBA loan to an ABA loan, we can't help you. So I called up other things. I was looking for other stuff, like with these people who are like, oh yeah, we can help you with this. We work with like venture capitalists and stuff. Oh yeah, we can work with this. This will be fine. I think we can help you with this. I'm like, okay, cool. And then like they talk. You sign things for them. You give them all sorts of little information, and they're like, oh yeah, we can help this with it's a credit card processing stuff. We can save you some money here. We can save you some money there, and we can loan you money for this. It's like, well, that would be good. And then like nothing. Um, I even went out and put out like a proposal. It's like, maybe I can borrow from family. My family is, except for my aunt and uncle, pretty poor. Um, they have mortgages and housing payments, and my little sister's in college, and my other sister has 3 kids, and they're making ends meet just barely themselves in Missouri. So there's no money in that, except for like, well, my aunt and uncle. But I I even went out and asked them about that, and no response. Yeah. So we're at a point here where there's a couple other people I'm gonna see if I can ask, and we're still looking for people to partner with, that maybe we can do something like that. Um, because we do need, what we need to do is we need about 6 grand, 6 to about 10 grand, and that fixes pretty much everything. It allows us to restock a lot quicker. It allows us to pay everything current, and pretty much to kind of get back up on our feet about stuff. Then maybe what we'll be able to do is I'll be able to get in people to volunteer a little bit, to do like um, some register work in the morning, so we can have longer hours, and some other stuff. Just there's it's rough, and that's what we're working on. Um, I did all the math, and I wasn't expecting the way we had budgeted everything. That first year would have been kind of a little slim, but we'd make it because what we paid into rent and electricity and all that stuff did not outpace what we made and what we would have. It didn't outpace that, and then we had significant chunks of what our actual pacing would be taken out as we went along. We had that was what happened. That's why we're in such a difficult position. And I still get phone calls. I I hand it's like, oh, here's a check for it. They didn't send me a actual statement thing until September. Until the end of August, they didn't send me a statement covering July and August and September. They didn't actually send that until almost September. Like the third, like I got it on the 28th of August, and I got practically on the 28th of August. Like it was, yeah. I was just like, really, you guys didn't send me a statement on there, and then they added late fees. It's like then I found out some really disturbing things about this particular area. Um, Apparently, the section next to us has been empty for about 10 years. Um, yeah, interesting. But that has nothing to do with this particular little fly-by-night operation known as Paragon Properties that started up in 2009. And I was just like, that's. So I was trying to figure out what to do. Back in June, I was looking at this as like, oh crud, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. And I started looking into Kickstarter and Indiegogo and doing other sales, more sales and such, doing events and actually doing paid events. So what I decided to do was we're going to launch an Indiegogo. And what this Indiegogo is going to be, it's going to be, we're going to set it for about $6,000 to see if we can make that. And the reason for this is we want to put together events at the store. But in order to do that, we need stability. We need to actually have a store to put events in. And we're going to start charging for those. We want to go ahead and do, well, I've got some ideas for that, and I'll do a video demonstrating and talking about those for the Kickstarter. Sorry, not Kickstarter, for the Indiegogo. Kickstarter takes about 3 months or so to actually set up. And then even after you do those, you still don't get paid for those until a little after the fact. Like it takes about an actual Kickstarter or Indiegogo once from the day you activate it to the day the activation ends. You add about 15 more days to that, and that's the whole length of that campaign before anyone gets paid. Yeah, crowdsourcing, fun. Lots of neat little hurdles to jump through, and Kickstarter is even more stringent about it. So yeah, we're working on that, and we will launch those. But right now, we're still looking for somehow, some way to like find people to help us. We need a little bit of help, funding. I'm not sure how, and I'm not sure what to do on that. Um, I've I'm going to go ahead and we will launch the Indiegogo, and then we're going to like see what we can do, see where we go with that. Thing is, I also started recording. I started recording Murray whenever he'd come in. He would talk because he'd come in and be like, "Well, you say you're going to get me money, and then you give me money, but it's not as much money as I'd like. So I think you're full of it. You're always lying to us, etc., etc." I'm like, then he's like, "Why don't you ever talk to us? Why don't you ever call Eileen or myself? Why don't you do that?" Well, the reason I don't do that is because every time I do, you accuse me of lying to you. You never, ever, you bully me over it. You're like, well, this is not, you're not professional at all. You're not professional. This is not a business. This is just, he said hanky panky the other day about it, which is actually the nicest thing he's ever said about it. He's like, the other stuff has been like, this is bullshit. What you're doing here is bullshit. Well, I can get you this much bullshit. A lot of that, to the point where he's done this in front of customers, which is amazingly terrible. I'm just like, really? Everything was fine before, and then like on the bottom of these little things, there is a 30 days, 60 days, 90 days thing. He's like, nobody ever gets 2 months in. And I'm like, well, why do you have 3 months on there if nobody ever gets 2 months in? And if I'm still making payments to you at this point, we're not 2 months in at that point. You're maybe that month's rent and then a little bit on last month's, which is what it is. It's so minuscule. It's little minuscule things. And the worst part is we have the stuff to cover it with stock currently, just we don't have extra money to replace that stock or to run events. And I really want to run events. So we do run a animation. We do run an anime club showing stuff for the school. We do give back to the community here. We are trying to be kind of a community center, but the thing is, when you have to have money to get money, and you have to be able to outpace that. And there's been interesting taxes and interesting things that have happened that we weren't expecting those to go as badly as they did. In fact, we were kind of prepared for worse, but it actually got worse than worse, to the point where I'm being bullied by that guy, Murray, and to the point where I actually, when I wake up in the morning, I take Sarah to the train, and then go home and I talk to the cat. This cat's pretty awesome, and I take I get a little bit of breakfast. Sometimes if I'm like really tired, so I might take a little bit more of a nap or so. But I actually dread coming into work, which it it's my business. I shouldn't dread that because this is what I want to do. This is what this is. I mean, I love this community. I love what you guys did too. The way everyone came together for that was amazing. I just wish that I could tell you that it it mattered more. I wish that I could tell you that the response had been better, and I wish that I could tell you that everything was going to be fine, and that we were going to get even more stuff in, and that we would be able to do even more events and actual like club stuff here. And I wish I could tell you that, but I'm not a liar. So that's kind of where we are. And that's why we're starting those campaigns, and that's why we're looking for a little bit of help. And if you can help, it would be great if you could. And if you can, that would be good. But at the present point where we are right now, it's a little bit rough. In fact, I got phone calls today about it, but we're working on it. And I'm not sure what'll happen in the future. I can't guarantee that everything will turn out good, but I want it to. I want to because it's I want to say how incredibly touched I am by the sales. I mean, it's not so much donations, it was sales, and that was awesome. But and we did hit that goal, and it was good. And for a little while, it looked good, and I handed that, and then it just that. I mean, I was asked because we do cover like DMGIs and stuff that still cover stuff like we covered the most recent on Descon and stuff, and it was pretty good. There was some weird stuff that happened there. Lots of like people we know and stuff. All sorts of weird things happened to people, and there was all that rain and stuff. But I mean, I was asked if everything was okay, and it. I mean, I'll be okay. I think. Um, I'm not so. I, I we will make it somehow. Something will happen for those. Something we will do something. It's we're working on it. Although if there's anything like that's why the Indiegogo and stuff. That's why asking people for money. That's why all that because because this store, everything about it, like, yeah, you can see we already are starting to run out of some stock. We have the space, we have everything for it, and we will figure this out, and we will keep on fighting. You have my word, and I don't lie, that I I don't we don't die without a fight, and we don't stop trying. I I I could say I got dark eyes and dark circles under my eyes from the convention, but the truth of the matter is that we've been working on this and doing so much for that like I don't sleep. And when I do, I don't always have the best of dreams, I guess you could say. And it's really stressful, but we will beat this. Um, and that's why I'm doing the Indiegogo, and that's why we will be launching the Kickstarter hopefully soon. It takes a while for that. In fact, it's behind schedule as it is, because I have to tape these. I'm taping off of this, and it takes forever to upload this to YouTube for all that stuff. And yeah. So, anyways, like that's what's happened currently. We might do. We're going to have to do some kind of sale before that to try and raise more money. But that is pretty much it. That's I've probably said way more than I really should um, about a lot of the situation, but I can't be not honest. I can't I can't and well, I want to thank you very much again. Everything that you guys have done, like what you did with the sale, is wonderful. I really really like what you guys. I I really appreciate it. Everything you guys have done is wonderful, and I hope we can do more in the future. And I we will keep doing. We'll keep fighting. We will keep on. And animation is art. It's not going to go down without a fight. I mean, I know they're threatening legal action, right? And I'm looking all over for a copy of the lease because they're like, we're going to use that to take your blah blah blah. I'm like, wait, no, that wouldn't. Ah, anyways, I guess I should have known when that happened. Like, there was like a boba shop over that way, and stuff happened to them. Now, the only stuff I've seen die is I've seen there was like a little restaurant over here that moved. There was a restaurant over here that closed for a little bit because they were expanding. Chop Shop, Boba Shop, that place over there died. Um, the When we first moved here, there was some horrible coffee shop in there, and they got moved out by a petition from the community around here to get rid of them, which is actually kind of insane and also cool because the community around here is actually really good. But and I want to continue serving them. I want to continue being here for them and being a safe place for everyone who's a fan of animation. And well, we're gonna keep trying, and we're going we're not going to die um, somehow, somehow. And I want to thank you again for helping us in July. That was awesome, and I just wish that it had more of an impact on that heartless little bastard. I'm sorry, I shouldn't call him that. He's old, and I should be more respectful. But after all that, That's what happened. That's why I hadn't given you this video until then, because of, well, I didn't want to disappoint you. I don't I don't want to let you down. And we're trying and we're going to do this. That's why the crowdsourcing, and that's why we're gonna have some more sales and stuff. That's soon. That's that. As for announcements, we did actually and on Descon. When we were working through that, I was like, "Oh, great! Everything's working. It seemed to be working pretty well." And we went ahead and we, like for example, if you type in anime is art.com, that takes you to animations art. ColoradoAnime.com also takes you to that. We started working toward that. I have preliminary sketches for some of our actual mascots. We were going to do the daily sales, which we kind of still do. You have to ask about them though. So just let me know, like if you're in the store. And there's just more that we're fighting for on that. And that's why I started working on the Kickstarter, because I want to get better recording equipment and I want to record stuff here for people. I want to be able to have awesome events, because I know a lot of people and they're awesome in the industry. We've met quite a bit of people through like Acon and on Desktop and just our general things with BMGIs. I want to be able to bring some of these voice actors here. I want to do signings. I have this space here for that. We want to bring in more artists. We want to do more for you. And that is why we're doing the Kickstarter and why we're doing the Indiegogo and why we're doing the crowdsourcing and why we're looking for partners and asking for other money and still trying to do that, because I, when by doing what you guys did, by raising all that money, you showed me that you want us. You really do want us here. You do like us, and you do want us here. And that energy there, I want to take that energy, and I want to give that energy back to you 100-fold. And that's why we're doing that. And that's why we'll be launching those. That's why we're asking for that. And I, you guys are amazing, and we're gonna beat this. We're gonna win. And like eventually, like we're in a 5-year lease. We're in the second year of that, and the basic like we only ran into this rough patch recently with like the layoffs and then the adding rent to that and all this other stuff. Just sometimes everything just piles on you, and it's almost like being employed, where when you're unemployed for a long time, you start hearing, you starts eating at you, and you develop twitches and stuff, and well, I put so much energy into here, and I can't wait to launch these and eventually do these events to give those back.